When it comes to our lenses, we want these things to be as sharp as they can possibly be. Or do we? Let's talk about it. Generally speaking, I prefer my photographs to be sharp, like really sharp. The way I get that to happen are a good technique for hand-holding my camera, an accurate focusing system, post-production sharpening tailored to the look I want in my photos, and the best glass I can get my hands on. Time that meant you needed the latest and greatest optics to get the most reliably sharp photographs. These days, though, I don't think that's necessarily true. Particularly with the switch from DSLRs to mirrorless cameras. I was thrilled at the time to learn that with an adapter I could use all the lenses I already had and not have to replace each one to fit on the new lens mount. I've been a working photographer for a couple of decades plus, and like many of you, have amassed a collection of lenses. Some I use more regularly, and some that are used for more specific tasks, but expensive lenses nonetheless. One of my concerns with that changeover was, would my glass work as well with the new cameras as with my old ones? I remember when upgrading from the Canon 5D Mark II to the Mark III, the sensor on the newer cameras was so much better than that of the previous one. Lenses that looked just fine on the older cameras showed defects in the optics when mounted on the newer one, like noticeably so. I didn't have quite as many lenses then as I do now, so I did give in to the domino effect that happens when you buy a new camera or a new computer and have to also upgrade your peripherals, and I bought new lenses. No regrets. So when I bought the Canon R5, I had similar concerns. It turns out that the adapter that allowed me to mount my own lenses onto the new cameras was simply a pass-through. There were no optics involved in that adapter, just contacts that allowed the camera to read the data coming from the lenses. To my very pleasant surprise, the older EF lenses I had been using still looked incredible on the mirrorless R5, so no need to upgrade, right? Well, Canon also began releasing RF mount lenses specifically for their mirrorless cameras. And it did make one wonder, how much better are these new lenses than the ones I have now? I had to assume they were better. With the price point these lenses were going for, they'd better be. Honestly, though, I just didn't feel the need. What I had worked great. I did make one exception right off the bat. Because these cameras were so popular when they were released, the lens adapters were also flying off the shelves and were harder to get your hands on. I ordered adapters at the same time I ordered the R5s, but they were back-ordered a couple of weeks. That meant I couldn't fit any of my existing lenses onto the new cameras until those came in. And when you have a new toy, tool that enables you to do your job, you want to use it right away. So I bought one RF mount lens to use until the adapters came in. A 50mm f1.8, the new Nifty 50 for the new camera mount. It's small, lightweight, and relatively inexpensive. When I tested it out, I remember looking at the resulting photographs and thinking, wow, those are pretty sharp, but it didn't blow my hair back, so to speak. The focusing system on this camera is nothing short of phenomenal, and I was getting more in-focus frames than I was on my DSLR, and this new lens did its job well. Thankfully, my second shooters also use Canon, and one in particular did upgrade his lenses to the new RF mount. So when we had a wedding together, I was able to borrow them for a bit so I could see for myself the difference in quality. They were universally sharp and focused quickly, probably quicker than my older lenses, and were lighter weight than what I was used to, which is a plus on an 8 to 10 hour wedding day. But optically, I didn't really see much difference with the latest and greatest compared to my older lenses, which kind of surprised me. When I pixel peeped and really zoomed in on the images, I could see some differences, but viewing at 100%, I just didn't. To be fair, I wasn't shooting wide open. It was probably at f4, so if I'm being honest, I don't see any compelling need for me to upgrade to this pricier version. I'm not lens shaming anyone here. If someone has the 50mm f1.2 and can't imagine using any other lens, I'm not here to argue with you about it. You do you, my friend. My point here is that for how I shoot and for photographers who may be on a budget, you can get excellent results from gear that isn't necessarily top of the line. So what you're paying for, in addition to unquestionably great optics, are focusing performance and lighter weight, all things to take into account when considering owning one of these newer lenses. It has been my experience that there are diminishing returns, though. With some of the prosumer lenses that come as a kit with camera bodies, you're going to see some differences in sharpness and performance. On a professional level, I wouldn't really recommend them. If you're just starting out, though, they'll get the job done, especially if you know your lighting. To the average person with wedding photography, portraiture, and headshots, there's a general expectation of how the photographs will look. That's not in any way to suggest a homogeneous or uniform style, but rather a level of professionalism. The lighting will be executed well regardless of whether it's a brighter style or a darker style. There will be consideration for how the image is composed and how people are posed, and generally speaking, the images will be sharp. Having your subjects in focus is the bare minimum for professional photography. That may be the smallest part of the image if the photographer is using a shallow depth of field, if that's the look they're going for. But the average viewer needs something specific in the frame to focus on, and that's often the area or areas that are in focus. Also the brightest parts of the frame, but that's a topic for another video. All that to say, except when it's not. Sometimes intentionally blurring a photo for effect can give meaning to an image that a similarly framed sharp image can't. Think of an athlete running, or a car zooming past, or a child on a swing. Freezing the action tells that story one way, but introducing motion tells it in another. Just to touch on the topic of retouching these super sharp images with all that detail, I've said before that you don't really know someone's face until you view it at 100% in Photoshop. More detail and more sharpness equals more work if you're doing skin softening or blemish removal or even minimal retouching. You'll see every hair out of place and every pore and wrinkle. I don't do much heavy retouching myself, and there are great tools that can help speed that process along. But if you're someone who does do more of a beauty retouch, you're going to have some work ahead of you. Some photographers and filmmakers will embrace the flaws of older technology in service of art, specifically for a look that's less technically perfect to modern eyes. Adapting vintage lenses to modern cameras is a thing, and there are photographers whose style and technique revolves around that creative expression. I'm in the camp that believes using equipment which inherently gives images a specific look is better in both process and results than any plugin designed to mimic that look. I also use film cameras, often older ones, and embrace the feel of using that technology to create photographs that are a result of that process, also a topic for another video. And the less said about the current trend of intentionally blurry photos that don't need to be blurry, the better. At the end of the day, we use the lenses and gear that we use based on our personal experiences, our artistic and creative vision, and practical considerations like our budget. You might already have gear that delivers the look you want and that your clients appreciate. My existing lenses are plenty sharp. My larger point is not to not get these newer lenses, but rather to show you can get excellent professional results from gear that's been doing just that for a number of years. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw in this video, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment if you're so inclined. If you'd like to see more, check out this other video I made for you. This is Ask a Wedding Photographer. I'm Seth K, and I'm here to help.